Welcome to the Scoop World Order. Sorry, we were on the phone a little bit. I hope you guys are having a great day. We're going to get into this because we've been making you guys wait for a second. A huge show tonight. Again, some updates on the left tackle situation, who's going to do what. It's going to be a huge game at Penn State. So we're going to get into it right away with Nevadabuck. Again, we appreciate all your support. You know our little spiel at the beginning. But this is a little late, and I know that there's a lot of good sporting events on tonight, so we're going to get rolling. Nevada, the left tackle situation is one of the most interesting things going with Donnie Jackson being, I think, the lead candidate. But I think that it, is basically between Donnie starting at left tackle. I don't think Zen is going to make it. Zen is a great kid, but he had a pretty severe injury. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see, kind of how that all goes down. But I think that, a guy who's a dark horse is George Fitzpatrick. Is George Fitzpatrick coming to tackle better than Luke Montgomery, Austin Seyerveld, Carson Hinsman? It's kind of open calling at left guard. To me, I would go with George, and I would give him a ton of help just because I think that by doing that, you keep four guys in their same spots as opposed to having Donnie, who's never played tackle at the college level, all of a sudden have to jump out to tackle at a place like State College, which is a devastatingly tough place to play at. A lot of ways to do it again, but I've got some pretty good intel on this one, and I'm really excited to see what these guys do. What are your thoughts on it at this point, Nevada?
Well, it's funny because when you talk to the players, and I always say the players know who the players are, and when you ask them the question, you get a variety of different answers. But the guy that most of the people want to see out at left tackle is George Fitzpatrick. That's the name that keeps coming up. And it's interesting because George is another guy like Zen who's been kind of buried on the depth chart, bounced around, hasn't really played a lot. Not sure if this is his time or not, but if the players had a vote on it, that's who they'd slide out there. And, there's been rumblings from a number of people. I don't have anything verification on this, but I've heard it from a bunch of people that have said, Donnie's not excited about moving from left guard to left tackle, which to me, one is I'll cloak all this under the banner of if true. If true, one, understandable. But if they ask you to go and it's for the best of the team, you got to do it. I mean, Ohio State's had guys like Luther Henson had moved from one side of the ball to the other, or Chris Gamble have gone from wide receiver to cornerback. I mean, there's so many guys that have kind of changed positions for the good of the order because it was necessary. And, for Donnie, I hope that stuff is not true. And I hate even repeating it, but I've heard it, like I said, I've heard it from a number of different people. And, he doesn't strike me as that type of kid. Doesn't strike me a kid that the moment would be too big for it, to be afraid to move out there to left tackle or, whatever the, number of reasons could be. But, I hope it's George. I mean, I hope it's George. And as you said, that keeps your stability, that keeps four starters that have been talking about, do you swap, Josh from right tackle to left tackle, then move somebody out there. And I'm just like, man, that just seems like you're creating multiple problems where there doesn't need to be. I think a guy like George could do a credible enough job that, if you took the Urban Meyer, simplify the running game approach, power left, power right, gap left, gap right, run. Urban Meyer wants to run Will Howard 15 to 20 times in this game. He thinks that's the path for Ohio State to win. You know how much Urban Meyer loves the quarterback run. He just says you can't equate the numbers. It gives you an extra hat there in blocking, and a big horse like Will Howard, his legs could be the different. And they talked about in the passing game, rolling him out, giving him quick throws, running that RPO action, anything to kind of keep him from being a mobile pocket because, a number of times, Will would go under center, drop back, and a guy would be right in his lap. And that's, that's not the optimal situation that you want for a quarterback like Will Howard. Give him a chance to see the field, put him in shotgun, give him some quick throws, give, Penn State some stuff to think about with some wide receiver screens. I'd love to see a tight end screen. I know they practice it all the time. I know that the traditional running back screens they practice all the time. Will they dial them up? one one would hope. But I think that Ohio State feels reasonably good enough about where they're at on the offensive line that I don't think they're panicking. I think Penn State's got issues on their offensive line. Everybody's got issues, and this is why you come to Ohio State, to play in games like this, to have an opportunity to shine in big moments. And I think for Ohio State, I think they have a much better handle on how to attack Penn State. I think they're willing to show more, and by show more, I mean risk more. With Will, this is one of those games where you run him as much as you can. You get him, you let him take as much punishment as you have to in order to win the game. That's something that you probably didn't want to do going into Nebraska, but you're willing to do that up at Penn State because, I'm not saying it's a must-win game, but it's a big game for Ohio State for sure. And a game that, Ryan Day obviously wants very badly. This team wants to get back on the right side of these big matchups very badly. And I hope it's George Fitzpatrick out there at left tackle. I think that gives you your best chance to win. I like that better than Donnie and Luke on the inside. But, my vote doesn't count because I'd have Carson Insman out there. So what the heck do I know?
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating discussion because, Donnie is your best player on the offensive line. But, he's got a tall task. Playing at Penn State, it's the ultimate team move. It's kind of like what Thayer Munford did when he went from tackle to guard. He never played guard. He's a guy, when you're the biggest kid in high school, you always play tackle. And at Ohio State, he was always a tackle. And he started as a true sophomore as a tackle and did a really great job. But, to me, it's for Donnie, again, I don't know what's in his head. I mean, if you put a gun to my head and say, Kirk, predict the O-line, I'm going to predict that Donnie's going to start at left tackle. It's not what I would do. I would get George every rep possible at left. Because again, when you do that, you keep four guys in the same spot, and then you have George coming in. And I would give George an ungodly amount of help. It's not because I don't know if he needs it or not, but when you're making your first start at Happy Valley, like that's Heisman level difficulty on the video game. It's the hardest difficulty you could ever do. So, I think that Donnie could help him. I would put a tight end in the wing on him at the whole time. And I think that that's the way that you protect him. Because whoever plays left tackle is going to need protected. The question is George Fitzpatrick a better fit than Donnie and Luke Montgomery? It's basically you trust George. And again, it's not just Donnie starting. It's Donnie starting at tackle, which he hasn't played. So again, it's you're going to be in passing situations, and really you just worry about the pass protection. Like the run blocking is the easy part. The pass protection is where you worry because Abdul Carter he's that guy. I mean, I watched his tape and I was like, that's the guy that we better have a plan for. Because again, I really I get upset when I see a really good player on an opposing team and that player beats the other team because they solo a guy. Like, again, I talked about TJ Watt on Sunday Night Football. The Giants have a chance to win the game. Their right tackle is very below average, and they put him on an island against TJ Watt. And TJ Watt subsequently, sack fumble, game over. And TJ Watt's a first ballot Hall of Famer, obviously. So to me, I'd have some sort of protection, some sort of a help, because the Jets did it versus Watt. They still didn't end up winning, but they had two hands on him, they had four hands. The tackle and the tight end. And again, that's a great way to frustrate a great pass rusher is to block him, send a back at him. Basically anything you can think of to disrupt his timing. And there's a lot of pass rushers that, frankly, if you double team them, they just shut it down because they know they're not going to get there if it's a good double team. So that would be my plan. Again, wherever 11 is, you better identify him because he is an explosive pass rusher. Was a linebacker. They give him 11, which 11 is started with Arrington and Navarro Bowman. It's like we're number 2 at Michigan. It's like we're number 2 at Ohio State. It's a very prestigious number. But that would be my vote. But if you ask me what I think the coaching staff is going to do, I think they're going to start Donnie at tackle. I can't see Zen making it. He couldn't put any weight on that leg. I mean, unless he can do some sort of miracle. And again, it breaks my heart for Zen because, your whole livelihood, you just dream of starting at Ohio State and you get your first start and you don't finish it because you get hurt, which is terrible luck. But that just is, it's kind of just, it's kind of life sometimes. So, but it's a great opportunity. Again, I keep saying that, as much as people have a lot of consternation. This is where a guy like Chip Kelly needs to shine. Chip Kelly needs to step up and say, I've won with lesser linemen. And again, I think that this is where Chip Kelly being in the National Football League is such a huge deal, because the NFL is an incredibly long season and guys get hurt. Teams have to adjust. Like, you have to have guys come up from practice squad and start on Sunday, and it's not optimal. If like the Browns lose Jed Wills, and you got to put DeWand out at left tackle, and he goes out there and hangs in there, and they beat the Baltimore Ravens, with a third string quarterback. And so again, this is an opportunity for these guys to really make a name. And again, for Donnie, I could see some anxiety if I was him, after he's very comfortable at left guard. He's trying to be, one of the top guards drafted. I think that a part of me, I'm not saying this is Donnie, but a part of me would think, is this going to hurt my draft stock if I go out there and lay an egg and get ran around a few times? But to me, I think it would improve your draft stock, because it would show your versatility, and it would show how hard, how great of a teammate you are. And again, when he goes to the National Football League, Donnie's a good player, but he's not good enough to play one position in the National Football League. Like, when you're in the NFL, unless you are a stone cold left tackle like Orlando Pace, basically, if you're a left tackle, that's the only position you're going to play. If you're in your first rounder, like you're the top drawer guy, every other guy basically has to play multiple positions. That's just how it is, because you have to understand, on an NFL game day, it's totally different than Ohio State. You guys go to an Ohio State game and you see, there's 11 guys on the field and 120 guys on the sideline. Like, in the NFL sideline, there's only 7 offensive linemen that dress. At Ohio State, there's 20 at a home game. So, you've got, you got to have a guy that can swing and play both tackles, and a guy that can play the 2 guards in center. That's usually how you do it. But if you have the versatility to play tackle as well in an emergency, it adds a lot of value to your stock. And that's something that I wasn't great about, because I wish I would have played some guard and some center when I was coming through the ranks, but I was so focused on right tackle that it's all I really knew. And then, honestly, that hurt me through the process, because I had 0 position versatility. So I talked to NFL teams that think Donnie's a center. I don't think Donnie's ever snapped the ball in his life, but they like his athleticism, they like his intelligence, and they think he'd make a great center. So, like I said, it'd be interesting to see kind of where it all comes to. But yeah, Nevada, like I said, this is I'm excited. Like, I know everyone, there's people that are terrified and scared, and there's people that cancel the season. Some of these guys, like, I'm just glad that they never had to play, because they just roll over and die if they had to go walk out of the stadium in Happy Valley. Because I loved it. Like, it's like, if you like being the bad guy in the WWF and walking out at WrestleMania and getting booed by, that's what it feels like. You walk out, man, and it is just like everyone hates it. They boo you. And again, that inspires me, because I want to make them so quiet and sad that it's incredible. And in 05, we did the opposite. In 05, when we lost, that place was an absolute inferno. But then in 07, we smashed them. And it's like, there's nothing more gratifying than making those people just as sad as possible. So I don't know, Nevada. What are your thoughts like on the rest of the team? Because again, I think that the defense is spicy. I think that they're getting ready to go on the best offense they've seen. They'll be Oregon level. I think these guys have a lot. They do a lot of stuff. I was watching their film last night, and again, James Franklin had a big deal about getting rid of the former coordinator. They got a new guy. He's kind of the bee's knees right now. And but again, they've struggled a little bit. At SC, they weren't looking too hot. Wisconsin, they didn't look too hot. Where are you at with the rest of the team right now, Nevada?
Well, the Nevada coordinator, he's being compared to the great Chris Signetti at Indiana for like the greatest football minds of all time right now. And so it's going to be quite the chess match between him and Chip Kelly. But all kidding aside, Penn State doesn't have the type of playmakers on the outside that Oregon does. And that's the big difference. You can do a lot of things with eye candy and movement and the tight end and misdirection and all sorts of things. But if you can't push on the outside, then that's a problem. And I think for Ohio State, they're going to challenge whoever the Penn State quarterback is. And I think we'll see both guys, regardless of, Aller's, fitness. I think that they've definitely prepared packages for both. And for Ohio State, they just have to be aware of who's in there. And I think that's going to be really important that they do that, because, if you've got, that running quarterback in there, then it's very likely there's going to be some run pass option stuff. And with Aller, he's going to be a little bit more stationary. So it's really going to be in Ohio State to call that out, have situational awareness of what's going on in the game, and get ready. But no, I love games like this. This is what's fun about college football. It's got all the pageantry, all the excitement, and it's a great opportunity for Ohio State to kind of show why they were considered one of the most talented teams, certainly the most talented team Urban Meyer had ever seen, that Jim Tressel had ever seen, that I'd ever seen. They got a chance to prove it on Saturday, and that's that's fun. It's a great opportunity for Ohio State, and like I said, I really like the chances. I really like where we're at now. It's a football game, so obviously anything can happen as we've learned. But Ohio State traditionally has played really. I mean, not played well, but they've come out on top generally against Penn State. But I think Saturday is going to be a heck of a game. I think it's going to be a barn burner. But I just am having a hard time coming up with reasons why Penn State's going to win this game.
Yeah, I just think when you look at kind of the way everything's going, like I think the defense is gonna play lights out. Again, I think that there was a lot of juice in the pass rush last week, which I thought was something that was exciting to see. Like I think that those guys have been called out a little bit and they're tired of hearing about it. And I thought JT and Jack showed up and Tyleek and like we're getting pressure from our down guys. And I think that pressure is something that when you get pressure from your down guys, it's a devastating thing to deal with when you're working on some of these these road matches, because I think Penn State, their line's okay. I don't think it's great. I think our line is probably comparable post Josh Simmons, but I like the mentality of the team. I like the kind of the whole us against the world thing that they got going, because again, like it's really up to these guys, because again this is the fan base is turning, that you're seeing kind of the worst part of the fan base. And, like it's a good time to kind of cull the herd and get the guys that, okay, let's see who's really with us, because again, I couldn't be more excited for guys like Jack Sawyer and Trey Henderson to really show what they're made of as leaders. Will Howard, obviously, Seth McLaughlin. This is going to be, it's an exciting environment. I know that I wish it was at night. Actually, I wish it was at daytime so that we can have a better shot of winning, but there's nothing like playing that place at night. I mean, it's an inferno, and it's one of the greatest college football atmospheres there is. But I just love the mentality, and again, I think that Ryan is going to pull out all the stops known to God and man, because you go get this one, then you're in the playoffs basically at that point. So you get this one. Indiana's going to be tough, but again, I'm like you. I don't know if Indiana is a paper lion or whatever, because I just don't know when they haven't played literally anybody. It's really hard to get a read on a team that's beaten like FIU, and they've beaten beat the Tar. I mean, I know they beat Nebraska, but did Nebraska really think that Indiana could beat them? I don't think so. So I don't know. And their quarterback's hurt. So again, like college football is about attrition. But again, it's about motivation and it's about focus, and I think that that's something that people don't understand, man. If you're motivated and focused, and going to Penn State, like I can't imagine coming out of that game flat. Again, like the Oregon game was one of those deals where, man, we just came out on fire. And again, a lot of people probably thought it was going to be a blowout, and obviously we ended up losing by one. But I think that they've got the formula down to start fast and get rolling. Nevada, there was a lot made of yesterday. Jim Knowles was getting interviewed, and they mentioned the rotation, and he said that Larry Johnson's in charge of it. What were your thoughts on that? Because again, the rotation has been something that I've talked about a little bit. Where I've said that I thought that we got to roll guys a little bit more. But again, it's the double-edged sword. It's kind of like if you're on a hockey team and you've got a superstar goalie and then you've got a gas can for a goalie. Like you're not really dying to play the gas can when it's almost a guaranteed loss. I mean, I think that our backups haven't shown that they can play at a proficient level, and it makes Larry play the starters a lot more than he probably would like to. But I also go back and think about when I played against Larry, I mean, and his guys, he usually had a pretty short rotation. Like if Tom Bahali was out there against me, like I didn't see I might see another guy for 5 snaps, but I think that's always kind of been his thing. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, we've talked about this before, but people have to understand. I mean, rotations are done by the position coaches. I mean, the coordinators are up in the box. They're up there eating nachos or what are they, taquitos, or going to the barbecue bin or whatever they're doing. But the guys that are handling the position groups, the defensive linemen, the defensive backs, I mean, they're right there on the sideline, so they know. So the idea that a coordinator is going to make a call on a play or a formation or a set, and then also be able to shout out, and I want Cody Simon in at linebacker and Malik Hartford at safety, and I mean, just there's just not enough. It just doesn't work that way. So if you have questions about the rotations, you got to point the finger at the position coach, because if it's wide receivers, it's Brian Hartline. If it's defensive backs, it's Tim Walton. I mean, you've got to point the fingers appropriately at those guys, because it's not the coordinators making those calls. I mean, they may have conversations with the head coach beforehand about, hey, I want to have our best guys on the field in the biggest situation, or general things like that. But I mean, that guy on the sideline knows who's ready to go, who's tired, who's hurt, who's hot, who's not, whatever it is. I mean, heck, you just had an NFL quarterback, Anthony Richardson, pull himself out of the game.
Jesus Christ.
because he was too tired, which again, not to detour too far, but when you see Anthony Richardson out there, and we've talked about him before too, you cannot tell me that Will Howard could not be a successful NFL quarterback if Anthony Richardson is starting for the Colts, or at least at one point in time was starting for the Colts. But I digress. But no, the guys that are on the sideline, they've got their finger on the pulse. They're the ones that are making these decisions. They're the ones that are doing it. If Larry's deciding he wants to go with his hot hands and he thinks these guys have got enough gas in the can to keep it going, that's who they should be questioning. Because it's not the coordinator. It's not the head coach. It's that guy making those decisions. And I think they've gotten better than they were last year. I mean, last year literally Jack and JT played every snap. At the Notre Dame game, that's obviously ridiculous. I think they've gotten a little bit better, but as you said, they don't trust the backups enough. And it's funny. There was a post on our board today talking about how next year Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson will be an upgrade over Jack and JT. And I'm like, with all due respect, what has Kenyatta Jackson done to indicate that he's going to be an upgrade over anything? And that's nothing personal against Kenyatta Jackson. Kenyatta Jackson, great kid, love, the physical specimen. But I mean, what has he done? And the answer is nothing. So, I think that I think Jack and JT are better than people think, but they may not be as good as we hope. So they've fallen kind of in that middle area. I think they're stout against the run, but they're just not slippery enough. On the pass, they get caught up too much, and as a result, we have to blitz to get pressure. All three of our sacks last week were when we brought 5 or 6 guys, and that's not where you want to be. I mean, ideally, you'd want to be able to pressure with 4. You want to at least be able to get like some sort of a compressed pocket with 3. And if you brought 5, man, you'd want it to be like, okay, we're doing the thing, and 6 is just crazy talk. But the bottom line is, when we bring 4, we just don't get much. And ultimately, if I look at the defense and say, what's been the biggest surprise about the defense? I expected the defense to be really, really good, like generationally good. And I think the defense is very good, and in its best days are ahead. But the biggest difference on the team is the fact that Jack and JT are not dominant defensive ends. And I did not see that coming. I did not see that coming out of 2 guys that between them have 100 starts or 80 starts or whatever the heck it is. 4th-year seniors. I really thought that they would just go out and just be kicking butt and taking names, and they're not. At least not in pass rushing situations. Now that can all change. Jack had 3 sacks or 2.5 or what it was against the Cotton Bowl. We've seen JT single-handedly take over games. Well, it's time, guys. It's time, and time is this week. So I'm looking for them to get off. If they get off, I think it's going to make everything better, because it's a dangerous game. That when you have to blitz to get pressure, that is not where you want to be as a defense. But unfortunately, that's where we sit. And like I said, that probably my biggest surprise of the season is that realization.
Yeah, I think that it's it's been a collective effort, and I think that they play hard. I think that they've been maybe a little docked by this game, but I think that the pressure was there last week, and I think that like Jack's getting a lot of pressure. He's not getting a lot of sacks, which is crazy to me. But I think that we've got a good, strong finish to the season. I wish that Kenyatta was better. I mean, again, he's the guy that I heard about and was excited. You get a kid from Florida, a big, tall, lanky kid, and when he's out there, he just doesn't do anything. And again, I'm not hating on the kid. I watch him, and I think that they're begging for these guys to be better, because if they're better, then all of a sudden, you can keep JT and Jack a little bit fresher. But I just don't. We haven't seen it yet, So I don't know. Like I think Caden shows up a little bit more than Kenyatta, and I just think that these guys are kind of dying to to get the rotational deeper. But if you don't trust the guys, because when you get in there, they can't get any pressure, and I think the bigger thing is they can't hold up against the run. It's really tough. So it's kind of tough sledding when you're dealing with stuff, and I don't know. But like I said, I give Larry a little bit of credit just because he's got to stick with the guys, and I give Jack and JT a lot of credit because they're playing as many snaps as in the country at this point. So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting finish to the season, because like I said, I would love to have a little bit more oomph from our bench, especially. But I sit at these games, and it's like there's so many television timeouts now, and there's so much time that it's just kind of crazy, because I think that these guys, if there's ever an era where these guys can make it last and hang in there, it's like it's now, because again, the games are a slog. So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I think we've got to figure it out. I think the pass rush took a big step last week when you look at some of the pressure packages. I mean, he was going to get to the quarterback come hell or high water. He was bringing 5-6 man pressures, dropping the end in the middle, kind of the crosser player. But he was bringing some cross dogs and some stuff. It looked like kind of the 05 team. They used to run this one cross dog that they called Alaska, and they were running it where it's the two linebackers cross, and it's really hard to pick up in pass protection. But I think coming down the stretch, they're going to keep gassing it up. And like I said, I think that there's a lot of guys with a lot of stuff to prove that have a lot of motivation to, frankly, win the big ring. I mean, they got to win the national championship, the Big Ten championship. They got to beat Michigan, and like Tress always said, man. November is for contenders, and that's the thing that you got to realize about football, man. Is football starts in November. Right now it's just kind of the table stakes and kind of getting it to where you need to get it. But now it's all about managing the team, staying healthy. Jim Bowman, who I love to death, he used to say, we got to get you guys to the game, because you could beat the tar out of the kids, but the second thing is you got to get them to the game. So it's like now's when you got to really manage the kids. You can't have the ruthless, crazy practices, because I'm telling you, these guys are beat to crap right now. And it's not in Ohio. This is just football. Like this time of the year in football, guys are sore, guys are stiff. Everyone has something messed up on their body that they have to manage. So, but like I said, I'm just excited because we're in this weird dimension right now, Nevada, where it's like we have our fan base is probably the most they have the lowest expectations out of anyone in the country. Like the rest of the country, we're number 4 in the playoff rankings. I still think we have the best roster. I think that the only team that might be clearly better than us is Georgia. But again, if we played Georgia, I think it'd almost be a pick 'em. Georgia might be a 3-point favorite because they beat Texas, but I don't know. And maybe I'm crazy. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but Texas, they didn't look too hot against Vandy, so, are you really scared of Texas? Oregon, why would you be scared of them? We almost were able to beat them without with losing our left tackle and Zen out there for the first time. So I don't know, Nevada. Again, I guess maybe me and you are the two guys that are the most optimistic because, again, we're also the smartest because we really studied this roster. And I think that this team is just dying to break through. I think that they've left a lot of meat on the bone. What are your thoughts on that as we come down the stretch for the season? 'Cause I just think that, man, what an opportunity for this team, and you've kind of got it all in front of you. And again, you've got this finish is monstrous because you've got Penn State, Purdue, Indiana, Michigan. Right down the stretch, and you got a cupcake in there too with Northwestern. But this is going to be you get 2 teams, and then Michigan's Michigan. When you play Michigan. No matter how bad they seem to be. And by the way, Nevada and I think that betting the money line on Oregon is about as close to free money as I think I could ever get in my life. But what are your thoughts as we come down the stretch, Nevada?
Yeah, no, I think, I think people have angst I think it's probably a defense mechanism that Ohio State fans have because they find that if they expect the worst, then they can't be disappointed.
That is a great word, defense mechanism. That is a perfect way to describe that. I told you so. I told you we weren't going to win the national championship. I've been right 48 out of the last 50 years. I've been right. So you just chalk it up to me and you send me my money in escrow and I'll tell you, I'll take that bet every year. Nevada.
Every year, we're not going to win. We're not, something bad's going to happen at some point. And, no, I just look. I love where Ohio State's sitting because I've always thought that the team that was going to win the playoff championship was not going to win it wire to wire. It's like a horse race, like when you see your horse break out of the gate and he runs to the front of the pack. And every now and then, there's a horse that can do it. They can go out and just lap everybody and kick away and go there. But I always love to bet on the horses that came from behind. And because, maybe you're not getting as much attention. You're kind of laying there in the back. You're laying there in the 4 or 5 spot. And all of a sudden you come around the far turn and the other horses start to tire and you just start to get better and better, gain that confidence and just, fly on past everybody. And I like that's where Ohio State, I think, the fan base for Ohio State has kind of gone from, excitement to kind of disappointment to kind of anger at the Ohio State team right now. And I think we've got a lot of really good football ahead of us, a lot of exciting football. Michigan at home, the inaugural expanded playoff. So, lots to look forward to. And I like where we're at. I mean, to win this, I've always thought you needed to have a veteran, sturdy quarterback and a stout defense and a running game. And I think we've got all three of those things. And on top of that, you've got a generational talent. And that's not hyperbole when talking about J.J. Smith. I mean, J.J. Smith is a once in every 25 years, if that kind of player. And so we've got all the ingredients. We've got all the ingredients. And Ryan's coached in a lot of big games. He's won some, lost some. But he's been there. And you've got Chip Kelly, two-time NFL head coach. So, hey, I like our chances. And I think these guys were born for a game like this on Saturday at Penn State. And I think this is their time.
Well, and I think another thing you have is you have a damn good quarterback, and again, I think that he is people again like and do not write this. Please make sure when you say this, but like nobody thought, and I'm not comparing him to Tom Brady, but like when Tom Brady came out, he's a 6th round pick, but he was a guy that was unflappable and he was tough, but they said, oh, he didn't have a strong arm and whatever, but this kid, and he's not Tom Brady. Obviously, Tom Brady's the GOAT. He's the greatest quarterback of all time. But like, there's some guys that just they've got a work ethic, they've got a leadership quality. They're tough as nails, unflappable. And again, it's not lost on me the fact that a lot of these weeks on when they do the little Tuesday press junket, they put Will Howard out there in front of the whole assembled media. Like again, they put out either Ryan Day with one of the coordinators. This week it was both the coordinators, or Ryan Day, a coordinator, and Will Howard, which again, for a guy who's been here for a year, and again, it's not like they rotate J.J. Smith through and they don't rotate Cody Simon through. They rotate the quarterback through. And again, I think that he handles the media as well as any player I've seen at Ohio State, because I think that he's mature, he's smart. And again, I always go back to watching that Oregon game when they would score and they'd immediately shoot the camera right at him, and he's completely unflappable. He's completely, he's like, all right, let's go. Because again, I've seen quarterbacks that are scared to death. I've seen quarterbacks that complain and cry about the offensive line being hurt, the offensive line not doing their job. Again, if you want to lose the team quick, and especially lose the line quick, complain about the O-line all the time. There's guys that still do it, and it's ridiculous. And I'm like, dude, like, go to, what makes great NFL quarterbacks? They get the ball off quick. And I'm just telling you, because you got some of those guys, they're playing behind practice squad left tackle, because you're in the league, you're one play away from losing your Pro Bowl left tackle, and you've got a practice squatter out there that's 20 years old and undrafted, and you better get rid of that ball. You better not hold it. You're going to get beat to death. So again, the quality, I think, of a lot of these scores. That's why I laugh, and it's funny because I specifically named Anthony Richardson all year when people say, oh, well, Will Howard can't throw the ball and he can't play in the NFL and he's no good. And I'm like, it's not what the NFL people I talk to say. They think he'll be at his floor is he'll be a long-term great backup. That's his floor, And again, like, that's a great life. And they say because he's mature, The coaches love him. The coaches at Kansas State loved him. He's wicked smart. So again, I don't want to waste his 1 year here, because again, we got all these guys that are here for 1 year. It's like it's like the end of we're almost to the end of the vacation, folks. Like, where everybody's got to go their separate ways, and it's like Quinshawn, Will Howard. I mean, we got guys that are monsters, and then there's a lot of guys that are potentially going to leave after 3 years, and we got a lot of great seniors. So again, this is going to be an incredible trek down the pike. Let's get into some super chats. Again, I appreciate you guys being on here as always. Alexander Presley, thank you for the 5. Appreciate you, my friend. Is Ryan Day thin-skinned? If you get on his bad list, you never get to play again. Carson Hinsman, Josh Proctor, Jaden Ballard, Dallin Hayden. Whew. The Dallin Hayden thing was the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my entire life, I think. When Dallin Hayden, like, redshirted, then he didn't redshirt, then he didn't play. That was the most poorly managed player I think I've seen. But Carson Hinsman is up there, because Carson is like I said, I don't think that there's an offensive lineman in the entire country that started 12 games last year as a freshman that isn't in like the top 10 deep. And Carson is, he only did everything right. He was an Iron Buckeye. And again, the hardest guy to please in the entire building is Mickey Marotti. And he's a hard on these guys. And, if Mickey likes you and stamps you as an Iron Buckeye, then that's all I need to know. So he did everything right, and he played well last year, and he got better. No, again, he's a freshman playing center in the Big Ten. So there's some people that are idiots. Oh, he stinks and whatever. I'm like, dude, he's a freshman playing center in the Big Ten. You know how hard that is to do, And then all he does is goes out. He gets benched, humiliated, and again, I have no idea what we were thinking in Missouri playing Enoch, because Enoch looked terrified. It looked like he didn't want to be out there. Matt Jones didn't know any of the calls. And Matt Jones is a great kid. I love Matt Jones. But he didn't know the calls. So when you're a center, and it'd be like a quarterback not knowing the plays. Like, it's not going to end well. So when Matt doesn't know the call and they change the cadence and he's got a different cadence than Carson, it screws up Josh Simmons. It screws up Josh Fryer at tackle. It's a big, again, It's not a big deal if you're playing Madden or if you have never done it before. But when you change cadences, or when you change guys that make calls, like I said, at center when I played, like Nick Mangold would say the cadence instead of the quarterback. When we were on the road and it was loud, our centers would say the cadence, so we'd get used to that. But just making the calls, it's impossible to run a play correctly if you don't have the calls done right. So. Again, there's been some questionable personal stuff. Like Jaden Ballard, I just have no idea. I mean, I know he did some punt returning last year, but he's just kind of, I guess riding it out till the end, I guess. But he gets on when we're up by 75 versus Akron. They put him out there, which is disappointing, because I thought that he'd be at least a deep threat, but he doesn't get out there at all. Josh Proctor was another weird one. Like, he started week 1 and then he didn't play again ever until last year. And last year I thought he was really good. It was a shame he didn't make it in the NFL on a roster, but I thought he was a guy that would have a shot to make a practice squad. Nevada, your thoughts? Do you think Ryan Day is thin-skinned? And he mentions Alexander again. I appreciate you, my man. He says if you get on his bad list, you never get to play again. And he mentions Carson Hinsman, Josh Proctor, Jaden Ballard, Dallin Hayden. And I'm sure there's others, but what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that I don't think it has anything to do with the thickness of Ryan's skin. Jaden Ballard's just not very good. Dallin Hayden's just not very good. Josh Proctor just made mistakes, and Knowles is a cruel taskmaster when you make mistakes. And Carson Hinsman, for whatever reason, Justin Fry just does not think he's a terrific player. But that's just my take. I mean, it's not like Dallin Hayden went to Colorado this year and is rushing for 80,000 yards. I mean, he's averaging 3.5 yards a carry for Colorado this year. So, I mean, Dallin Hayden's just a nice little running back, but I never quite understood why people, there would be thread after thread. Dallin Hayden's our best. You bench Trey, put Dallin out there. He's the best. And I never got it. I thought he was a nice kid, nice little running back, but and Jaden, I've always wanted Jaden to be good. They've put packages together for Jaden before bowl games. We've talked about that, and then the time comes and they just don't put him. They don't trust him for whatever reason. They don't trust him, despite his big speed. They don't want him out there. So I personally don't think it's that. I think the doghouse thing is something that's kind of overblown, because you have to remember these guys everything in their life is about winning. You know, their wives, their kids, their legacies, their homes, everything in their life is about winning. So they will befriend the devil himself if it'll help them win. So certainly nothing that somebody said or did or mentioned or looked sideways on a podcast or did whatever is going to stop them from playing somebody if they think they're going to win. That's just the reality of where they're at in terms of how important it is to win in college football today. So I don't think that's an issue, but I respect that people feel otherwise. And you and I have never had this conversation, so I don't know. You may feel otherwise, but I think that they would sell their souls to win, and they use anybody to do it.
Oh, I mean, dude, like it's because if you don't win, you get to tell your kids, hey, we got to transfer you out of your school and we got to move to Sheboygan or wherever the next job is and move to Akron. I mean, like Perry Eliano, I mean, he didn't do good enough and didn't win enough on the recruiting show, and he's coaching at Toledo now. There's nothing wrong with coaching at Toledo. Trust me, it's a great school. But I mean, when you go from Ohio State to Toledo, man, it's a different world now. I mean, Corey Dennis, who I love to death, and I love Nicky Meyer. It's like they go from here to Tulsa, because he didn't do enough of what Ryan wanted to do and wanted to get Chip Kelly. So, it's just one of those deals where you got to work your way around the country. And again, that was by far, when people say, why didn't you get into coaching? It's because I want to move when I want to move, period. Like if I want to move, it's because I want to move, not because someone, because some kid sells stuff for tattoos or whatever and the whole staff gets fired. I mean, I saw stuff in my 3 years where I was like, I'm not going to let anybody dictate my life except me, and my business partners, and that's it. But it's going to be mostly me. Like if I want to, do something in life, like again, I was real big on like, if I build a house, I want to stay there. Like if you're a coach, man, you don't ever own a house. I mean, you're always moving and looking for the next place, and it's going to happen this year. I mean, there's going to be some guys in the South that aren't going to be back just because that's college football. There's always transition. You're either going up the ladder or down the ladder. So yeah, guys will do whatever they can to keep moving up the ladder. Without question. Buckeye One, thanks for the deuce. What is tougher, run or pass pro for a new lineman? That is a fantastic question, and it is that's the easiest question I've ever been asked. Pass pro, by far. Not even close, not even in the same universe. Run blocking in general, the old adage for offensive linemen and offenses is that offensive lines, the offense wins a stalemate. So if you just are drive blocking a guy and you're just a stalemate, you don't get pushed backwards, you're at the line, that's considered a win because, if you have a running back who isn't blind, he can make a cut off of that. And as long as you don't give up penetration, you're not pushing the backfield, you're in good shape. Pass protection, it's like, and plus there's just less severity if you miss on a block. Now, if it's 4th and 1, that might be different. If you miss on 4th and 1, like we had guys do last week, then people are going to boo and be upset with you. But in pass pro, if you miss on a block, your quarterback can literally sack, fumble for a touchdown. You always have these nightmares when you're a player. Like I would have these these nightmares where it's like, you don't want to have that like game-changing play, because we're playing Texas and Florida and LSU and all these big-time schools, and it's like, you don't want to give up a sack fumble. And you're going against, I was going against first rounders like in all those games, like first top 10 picks. So that it's really on you to get your job done. You don't have like an easy go at it when you're pass blocking, and like when you've got a big time pass rusher, they can end the game. They can wreck a game. They can hurt your quarterback. So you really got to be on point when you're in pass pro. And again, I wanted to be very physical in pass protection. Pass protection, generally people think about like vertical setting and sitting back, but anytime I could take a shot on a guy and punch him in his head, I'd do it with the butt of my hand as hard as I could. That was something that I really started doing as I got older. Anytime I could take a shot, because if you hit a guy in the head a few times, like they don't really want to play football anymore, because again, they get kind of punch drunk, and if you can cuss them, then they don't have to play anymore. So you get to play against the backup, and it's kind of like having easy street. I would cut guys. I would aim for their kneecaps and try to put my helmet through their ACL and blow it out, because I was like, if I can knock them out of the game, then I can go against the backup. But even if I don't knock them out and they know that I'm crazy enough to try to, and again, my cuts were legal. They were from the front, nothing from behind, nothing dirty, but it was a legal cut. So I'd always tell Jim Bowman, I'd say, that's my favorite place is like, call some 3-step early in the game so I can cut the guys. Because again, once you put your helmet through a guy's kneecap, you really figure out how much he wants to play that day. You know, so again, like I loved inflicting pain on people. I'd aim for the knees and the head because those are the two things. People are always scared about their knees blown out and they're scared about concussion. So like when they had all those concussion things, I was like, that's perfect because that's what I'm aiming for. So again, pass protection is much more difficult. You're going against plus athletes. There is an alignment on this earth that would say that they would rather pass block than run block. There just isn't because you're the aggressor when you run block. So I was aggressive when I pass blocked. And again, our guys are as passive can be. It's like, you know, they're worried about the pass rushers' mental health when they're pass blocking them. So I was not. I was worried about trying to be violent because again, I think that it's cumulative, and Nevada and I are UFC fighting nuts. And we know that like guys can wear down, guys can get distraught mentally. There's just a lot of little in kind of like, you know, like when you watch some of the great UFC fighters that wear their opponents down, like Nevada's boy, Fluffy Hernandez, like he just keeps moving, man. And by the end of the fight, the guy's ready to die. And it's the last place on earth that he wants to be at is in that cage with Fluffy. And this is a fight that was 2 weeks ago where big juiced up guy and Fluffy got in the cage. And most people, if they saw the two of those guys on the street, they say, well, the big juiced up roided out guy is going to kill the little guy that used to be fat and he's skinny now. And it was the exact opposite. So Nevada, are you surprised by the answer? What's tougher to run or pass pro for a new lineman?
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. But I love it when you old time players that are talking about how tough it was back in your day or something like that. Because
that's right,
man, I'm telling you, like it's.
I literally never said it was tough. I never said it was tough. I mean, you could do everything I just said that I did. They could do like today. I mean, the Oregon Ducks, the number one team in the country, they were cutting our defensive line. And I'll tell you what, if you're Tyleek and Jack and JT and those guys are going for your knees and they're on a 3-step, I was like, damn, I wish we'd do that. We haven't done that in the Ryan Day era a single time, ever. But yeah, because again, I don't know if we're too cool to cut, but I love cut walking. So, but this is my opinion. Raymond Mitchell, thank you for the 5. Appreciate you, my friend. I didn't have Zen almost getting Ryan Day fired on my 2024 bingo card, but here we are. How do I have a 4th-year scholarship guy that can't play? Well, I don't think Zen had his moments where he wasn't great, but I think Zen for his first start was okay. Now I know that there were plays where he looked terrible. Trust me, I watched the whole game multiple times, but he hung in there versus Oregon, who was the number one team in the country, and like is he Josh Simmons? Absolutely, obviously Josh Simmons is a first-round pick. So is there a drop-off? Yeah, there's a drop-off. Any team in the entire country that loses a first-round pick at left tackle, there's going to be an enormous drop-off, including Ohio State. So I don't know. Like Nevada said correctly yesterday when he said that Zen the last drive was pretty good. And I was sitting there and I was like, yeah, I mean he really was good. And I couldn't really agree more that he was he was on point. His pass pro was good, and when we really needed him, he was able to mentally get there. And some of the stuff, there's some mental errors and there's some chemistry stuff, getting him next to Donnie. And again, I always talk about you have to have good chemistry with your guards. And when after the hand, foot, and mouth and all those guys got all together, like I think that Donnie and Josh Simmons probably had 99% of the reps next to each other, like because they had to get caught up, and those guys had an incredible chemistry together. If you watch them on tape, they were really good together. So I think that that was part of it. Those guys have to continue to improve that, but. Again, I don't know how long Zen's out. I mean, I'm sure he's out this week, and I got a text that he's out this week for sure. So, but like I said, we'll see. Like I said, I don't know. There's a lot of guys that couldn't beat Zen out to start at left tackle for the number 4 team in the country. So there's a lot of guys that are worse than that. Just because he had to actually go out there and and play versus a decent team. I mean, that's the top 25-ish type defense. I mean, if you throw out the outlier Indiana game, like. They're good. And again, that Nebraska team was a much different team than the one that Indiana faced because they'd been humiliated and they got some tough guys. And again, their 2 down interior guys were really good players. Like they might not start for us, but one of them might. I mean, again, I think that one of them could start over Ty Hamilton. But that's just my opinion. But those guys would definitely play a lot if they were at Ohio State. I wish they were here. Your thoughts, Nevada? Ray Mitchell next to 5 says, I didn't have Zen Michalski almost getting Ryan Day fired on his 2024 bingo card, but here we are. How do we have a 4th-year scholarship guy that can't play? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's just, I mean, you have to remember, the offensive line, you barely rotate on the offensive line. It's unlike any other position.
Yep.
The backups don't play. They don't get meaningful reps. It's really hard. We've had seasons where our first 5 guys didn't miss a snap, let alone miss a game. You know what I mean? So it's not a place that you get a lot of reps, and there's no substitute for game reps. And even when Josh Simmons came to us, he came to us with 12 games starting for San Diego State under his belt, or whatever it was, 10 games, 11 games, 12 games. So he had played college football before. I mean, Zen had never started a game. I don't care how many years he'd been here, 1 year, 2 years, 4 years, whatever. He's never started a game before. So he starts a game, and he starts out bad. And, by the end of the game, he was better. And there's no reason to think that maybe in his second game or his third game or his fourth game that he might have even gotten better. So I don't think it's an indictment. And I am no Ryan Day apologist. I am no Justin Fry apologist. But we have to be fair and look at it and go, did I expect Zen to be a finished product, to be able to walk out there and play at a extremely high level? That would have been the most shocking thing in the world, that somebody could do that, because it's just not how it's done. So did I think he'd looked that bad? No, he looked really bad on some of those. I mean, there's no denying he looked lost out there, but he battled and he got better. So, I just think people have to be realistic about what's going on. I mean, the bottom line is we lost our first team tackle. We've now lost our second team tackle. So now we're on to our third team tackle, or whatever you want to call it. Somebody else is going to be playing a left tackle spot. That's an issue. But do I think Ohio State can get through it? Yes, because everybody's got to get through issues like this. This is a tough one, but next man up. For everybody that's injured, there's somebody else, some other guy that's getting a chance to play that's going, darn, I am getting a chance to change my entire trajectory of my life right now. I can chance to get film to put it on for the NFL. I'm getting a chance to play in this game where 2 weeks ago he's thinking he's going to be eating peachy Paterno ice cream at the Creamery during this game. And instead now he's like, I'm going to be starting. That's a heck of an opportunity for somebody. So next man up, got to go do it. But Zen playing poor man, you got to be realistic about this. The great Burt Carton came out there his first game, and I guarantee you he was not super awesome the first game they ever started out there at Ohio State. And guys get better, and Kirk was better in his 10th game and better in his 20th game and better in his 40th game. But the first game was not necessarily a finished product or an indication of where his career was going to end up, because that's just the way it works with offensive linemen.
Perfect. You couldn't have said it any better. And again, tackle, like depth, it's like I always tell people about depth. Depth is great until you have to play it. And again, it's nothing against Zen, but I always say this to you guys, and you guys get the real stuff, because I was played there as a captain, I was backup, I was lost games, won games, I've seen everything. And like some of you guys get nervous just walking into the Horseshoe. Like imagine having to actually play at the Horseshoe and like see everybody. And again, our fans, who I love to death, can be ruthless. So, I mean, you always got in the back of your mind, like, you don't want to have that Ryan Hamby moment where, he drops a pass against Texas and the whole world, like for the rest of his life in Columbus, that's what he's known for, is dropping a pass versus Texas that would have probably won us the national title. So, I don't know. Like I said, it's something where you got to have the chin for it. And again, it made me real tough and hard, and it also makes you realize that, not everybody loves you unconditionally, that, when you play out there. But, like I said, I loved it. Like, I mean, when we lost to Florida and LSU and people were ready to kill us and upset, like, I was fine with it. Like, I'm like, you guys, what? See how tough you guys are mentally. Because, we have some softies that can't deal with some criticism and some stuff like that. And I'm like, well, how are you going to handle life, when you're in business and you're working for companies and you're doing stuff and someone decides to get on you or be critical of you? Like, I was like, there isn't anything anybody can say to me at this point, because I've had entire fan bases want to kill our entire team and our coach and fire everybody and get rid of all the players. And just like I said, I'm good with it. So Buckeye One next to the Deuce. Can Chip still run exotic stuff with new linemen? Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the exotic stuff that Chip does, it doesn't involve, the blocking schemes are pretty similar. It's mostly, who's getting the ball. Is it a motion? Is it an orbit motion? Is it a run with a receiver? Is it a triple option? But a lot of it's just blocking zone, and then everything else kind of stays the same. So, yeah, absolutely he can, and I think that he will. And I'm really excited to see what Chip comes up with this week. Imagine Wagons, JVB, thanks for the 5. Going to the Ohio State game versus Indiana, what are the chances it becomes a night game? The time is to be announced. I would be shocked for it to be a November night game the week before Michigan. I would be shocked. 3:30, I would probably bet a decent amount of money on it. But again, I don't quote me on that. Don't say Kirk said that. I don't know. It seems like that could end up being a pretty premier matchup. So I don't know. Like I said, I couldn't imagine that being a night game the week before Michigan. But again, I could be wrong. But Nevada, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I need to look at the rotation. It's all about kind of who has the weekend and who has the first pick and what the other games are.
Yeah, kind of like for like give like the 60-second like how the networks draft the games basically.
Yeah, it's like a fantasy draft. It's like
it really is.
Yeah, and so it just kind of rolls around, and so when Fox has the first choice, they pick, and that gets to a time slot, or you've got NBC, or you've got CBS, or what. I mean, it all kind of runs in there. That's what determines what time slot the game goes. So I just got to check who's got that slot on that weekend, because before the season, Indiana Ohio State wasn't looking like a premier type of matchup, but now as we've talked about, that's going to be that's a good game for both teams. Fun game week before the Michigan game, and Indiana should come in highly ranked, and that's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I totally agree. So yeah, we'll see what those guys are made of. They're going to play Michigan. They're going to play us. So be interesting. D. Sonny, thank you for the 5. Can you tell us a player from the past that would slobber in the mouth for a chance, like Donnie has to switch positions and battle a first rounder? Whew. Switch positions and battle a first rounder. Well, I mean, I would have tried it. Like, I always think, like, if I was in Donnie's shoes, if Jim Bowman came to me and said, "Hey, I want to move you to guard, to left guard, like, or to right guard, and put this other guy in," like, I think it would have been terrible. I don't think I would have agreed. I mean, I would have tried to do it. Now, again, it really depends on who's the right tackle. If there's a guy who's really good next to me, but I just wasn't comfortable playing guard. Even in the NFL, I wasn't comfortable playing guard. I was a million times better at tackle. But God, that's a great question. Nevada, do you have anyone that you think would be dying to switch over to battle a first rounder? I mean, I don't know if this is just exclusively offensive line or if this is anybody, but
I remember. I'm going to go in the Wayback Machine, but some of our viewers are a little bit older. But there was a guy named Luther Henson, and Luther in 1979 was a first-team All Big Ten selection as a defensive tackle. So great defensive tackle at Ohio State. Senior year, Ohio State needs an offensive tackle. So what's he do? He switches over from defensive tackle, plays offensive tackle, and to me, that's always been like kind of the standard of selflessness, where you're literally moving from a position where you're an all Big Ten player, and you play on the other side of the ball. So we talked about Thayer, giving up his offensive tackle spot to move to guard so they could get somebody else on the field. I mean, look, you got to do what you got to do. It's all about the team, man. And I know you well enough to know that if they just said to you and came to you and said, "Kirk, we need you at center," and you got 4 days to figure out how to snap, then you would have figured out how to snap. You'd have done it. You would have gone in there and done it.
I mean, you have to. I mean, if you're going to be a leader, like, I can't talk all this trash about being a captain and doing it for the team without me doing. If they say, "Hey, Kirk, our best chance is for you to play center and everything," then you want to become a legend. Like, that's what I said about Donnie. It's like, Donnie, go out to Penn State and shut down Abdul Carter at left tackle. Like, I mean, you want to talk about raising your draft stock? Holy cow! Even if you have help, it doesn't matter. If you throw a shutout with a 0 in the sack column, then yeah, you're. I don't know. Like to me, it's absolutely crazy because, the opportunity is there, man, and it's going to be exquisite for these guys, and I'm excited. I'm probably more excited than they are, which is nuts, but that's just where I am. I was going to say Larry Kolek, who played in the 80s. He switched from linebacker to nose guard, and I know Larry very well because his sons. I played football with his kid, Luke, who's a great kid, one of my favorites, and his dad was awesome, and his dad was a wild man, played with Spielman in the 80s. I mean, he told me some crazy stories about, back in the olden days, playing for Earl Bruce was not for the, he was not the original mental health advocate. I'll tell you that. But again, I like guys like Earl Bruce, man. That's my kind of guy. So God rest his soul. He was amazing. So I'd say Larry Kolek. He was a guy that did it. Ian Bates, thanks for the 5. OSU is the only Power 5 contender who doesn't rotate on defense. All others rotate at every level. Ryan Day is scared to play without the starters in, from Zach Smith. Well, I mean, I don't know, because Zach studies a lot more teams that aren't Ohio State than I do. I watch Ohio State as much as any human being on the planet. But, I wouldn't doubt it, because I'm sure that teams rotate more than we do, because we don't rotate at all. But what are your thoughts, Nevada? I mean, do you think Ryan Day is scared to play without the starters? I go back and forth, because when we put in guys like Kenyatta, like, show me something. I mean, have you ever? Show me the Kenyatta, Jackson, Ohio. And again, I'm a nice kid. This is not me being hard on him, but there's a lot of these kids. It's like, these guys should play more. Well, they get out there, like, show me his highlight tape from his time at Ohio State. So I'm dying to see it. I mean, that thing will be as long as, maybe not even a second long. But what are your thoughts about it? Do you think Ryan Day is scared to play without the starters in?
I mean, first I'd have to see the data from other teams to see how often they play. Because, that sounds a little bit like hyperbole to me. So I'd like to see it and then really take it, analyze it and really take a look at it before I make a comment on that to see if are we really an outlier. I don't know. Because as you said, you and I watch Ohio State football. We watch all football, but we study Ohio State football. I don't study other teams, so I have no idea how many plays their backups go or whatever they're doing or how often they're rotating them or whatever they're doing. So I really don't know if that might be a valid criticism or not, but I'd have to check it. I'd have to see the data on that.
Yeah, it's just something I don't know. I don't doubt it, because Zach studies. He does his film breakdowns for all those teams. That's one of his big things he does, but. I just don't care. Like, I'll study our opponents, and I'll study Ohio State. That's it. Like, I don't care what Florida State does or Miami. It's just not me. Supersonic, thanks for the 10. Appreciate you, brother. Can we agree the Rushman package is dead and hasn't worked since Chase Young? Well, I think that we get a little bit of pressure if you put Caden in, and again, I don't know who should be. The biggest thing is I don't know who should play D tackle. I think JT should play D tackle, and I think that maybe Jack and Caden should switch and play D tackle and kind of switch around a little bit. But I don't know. Like, I think that it's a good way to get Ty Lake some rest is to, get a pass rush package going. But the problem is like, some of those guys, they're just not getting to the quarterback. So I don't think it's dead. I mean, we ran it a little bit last year and I liked it. I just think that, Edric Houston was out there a little bit. I think you got to get him going. So I think you got to figure out who are the guys that you need to get in there to get to the quarterback, especially on the interior. Because, like, do you put Jack and JT in there, or, I think that the problem is like, they want to be NFL defensive ends, and so when it's third down, it's like when you take away their pass rush snap versus an offensive tackle playing their prime position, it's like, come on, man, I came back and you're going to make me play 3 technique in the pass rush, but. For some of those guys, I think that they might be more prolific down there. I think JT is a 3-4 defensive end all the way. I think he's gotten a little skinnier, but I think he's going to be a little bigger in the league. He's going to be in a 3-4 end playing for the Steelers and playing a really long time and doing a good job. Nevada, your thoughts. Can we agree the Rushman package is dead and hasn't worked since Chase Young? What are your thoughts?
No, I don't agree. I don't agree at all. I mean, I like the Rushman package, and I think that. Well, hold on. That's the.
Is that Zurich, the red card cat?
That's the cat. The cat is
Zurich. The cat thinks that the Rushman package is good.
The cat said that. The guy literally just said, "I think the Rushman package is good," and I completely disagree. So, So whenever I say the words Kenyatta Jackson, the cat meows. I don't know what it is. It's like, Kenyatta Jackson, meow. No, I like the Rushman package. I just think Jack and JT need to be better. I mean, and again, you know how much I love those two kids. I love those two kids. I just want them to be better. And I think they're good against the run. I really do. I think they're stout against the run. They just they're 4th-year seniors, man. You got to start dominating like your 4th-year seniors right now, and it's time. So go get it done.
Daryl Mosby, thanks for the 5. Appreciate you, my friend. When OSU decides to go pass heavy, would it be better to go 4 wide, utilize Tate and Ennis more, and keep it back or tight end to help in pass pro? Well, I think, to me, I would keep a tight end in. I'd keep Bennett Christian or somebody to help the left tackle. But what I would do is, we used to have a protection that was called 52, and it was basically like a 7-man protection, but it was like 6.5. You'd leave the back in to scan for blitzers, but then you'd have a tight end kind of in like a wing formation. He'd be kind of in a wing right on the hip of the tackle. And what he would do is he would basically, like check, and, he would hit the end, to kind of slow his initial charge down, stop him from doing his initial move, and then he would leak out. So he'd be like a safety valve. And I used to think that was the best protection in the world, because I was like, this is amazing, because you have the back on one side to scan, and then you've got this kind of fortified wall on the left side. So again, I can't express to you how much I'd want to move the pocket, help the left tackle out. Don't just sit back there and empty. And we don't really do that. Like, Chip Kelly does a good job of moving stuff around. And don't just sit back there and make Will Howard a sitting duck when he's that mobile. And again, Will Howard's mobility is going to win us this game. You watch. I mean, we get a little leakage on the left side from the new tackle. Will Howard's got the ability to get away from that, which is something that I think is going to come into play. Because again, I watched Abdul Carter again last night. He's very good. He's a guy that you better be ready for. And again, if we don't have a plan for him, then shame on Chip Kelly and shame on Ryan Day. Let alone justify, but those are the guys that are putting in the protections and making the calls, and you got to have a plan for 11. He's good, and you just have to. You can't let him beat you. Don't let their best player beat you. What are your thoughts, Nevada? When OSU, and again, I appreciate you, Gerald. Thanks for the 5. When OSU decides to go pass heavy, would it be better to go 4 wide, to utilize Tate and Ennis more, keep a back, or a tight end in to help with pass pro? What are your thoughts?
I love that formation. That's my favorite formation. It's my favorite formation for any down distance situation. If I'm running 3rd and short, I'm going 4 wide, single back, Will Howard, and I'm that's what I'm doing. I really think that's the one that plays our strength. And so it makes as you said, it makes the defense kind of declare their intentions. I love the run pass option out of that stuff. I love the zone read out of that stuff, and I agree with you. I think Will Howard's legs are going to be the story of the game on Saturday, and I think I think they're going to run him early and often, and we better be ready for the backup quarterback, because I don't think Aller's playing. I don't think Aller's playing. I think it's going to be the other
I think
guy.
You're right.
And Ohio State better be ready for that, because if they go out there and this guy is able to run around on them, then it's like shame on Ohio State, because we all know what he's going to do. I mean, he's Alex Orji with a little better passing. So be ready for him. He's never played in a big game before, and there's no reason to believe that we can't just shut this guy down.
I want to give a quick shout out to our boy Mitchell Grube from Grube Inc. He is they're a huge Buffalo. They're our Buffalo Wild Wings partner. Obviously, along with Twin Peaks, Mitchell is texting me right now during the show. So appreciate you, brother. Thank you and your dad for your support and being a huge sponsor of what we do. Can't do what we do without you. So you guys in Twin Peaks are my 2 favorite restaurants, because you guys have cold beer and chicken wings and quesadillas. That's all I need in my life. So I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you, Mitchell. D Sonny back in the cut again. Thank you for the 5. I appreciate you, my man. This is great. Can we get more of the Nevada crazy fan voice? We are Michigan. We will never lose. Get Trey out of here. He has no vision. Great show. Nevada, the crazy fan voice is a very, very it's one of the best things you do when people, Jim Knowles has to go, and Trey can't read, and we got to put Mayan Williams in, and Mayan's way better. He writes.
I got a new one.
Oh God.
The answer was Enoch Vamahai was always the answer. Look how good he's doing.
Oh my God.
Look how good he's doing at Washington.
People ready to kill that kid. Oh my God.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's just like, come on, guys.
We got to fire Chip Kelly. Oh my God. We're there now.
He's a fraud. No, my favorite one was Will's not OSU caliber. Will Howard is not OSU caliber.
Oh my God.
I think he's pretty good. I really do think he's going to be good. No, he's not. He's not OSU caliber. Well, okay, we'll see. So,
I mean, Kansas State, like, I mean, the guy that said that the Kansas State, they couldn't wait to get rid of Will Howard. And I'm just like, in what universe? I mean, did you watch him versus Missouri? I mean, I watched him. They went to Columbia last year, and they gave them all that they wanted with Will Howard and the mighty K-State Wildcats. He took them to a Big 12 championship. Oh, he's going to get beat out by this freshman guy. And I'm like, in what universe do you think that that's real? Will Howard won a Big 12 championship with little old K-State. He wasn't at Texas or Oklahoma. He won with K-State talent. So I don't know. People are just, they're inconsolable sometimes.
If we only had Enoch, our offensive line problems would be solving. As Jay Book put it on a tweet. He said that Enoch's doing good in guard.
Oh my God. Can you imagine if we played Enoch? I mean, they were going to kill him after that game.
We've done it. We've played Enoch. We played him 2 years ago when he got pulled after one.
They pulled him literally after 2 series. I mean, they put Josh Fryer. I mean, that was a crazy. I mean, you were talking about a quick hook. Oh my God. I mean, I was like, well, that was great. I mean, because again, like, it's nothing against the kid, but the lights are brighter here. This isn't Washington. Like, I mean, you know, nobody even can name a player that's played at Washington. You know, I mean, that's not, so it's like, you know, here it's like, I mean, it is a cauldron. You know, it's not a state where everyone's walking around stoned like Washington State. So, I mean, come on, guys. Like, so it's just, I don't know. All right, Nevada, I think we can wrap the show. This is a great show. Any final thoughts?
No, just excited. I mean, I'm so excited to see if Big George gets his first start at left tackle, or if Donnie does the selfless thing and moves out there. I'm really interested to see this. But, you know, as we talked about, we don't like to talk about injury stuff. We had said that we were kind of skeptical hippo about Zen. You want to go into it too deeply, but then Ryan came out today and he's like, you know, it's looking doubtful that Zen's going to play. And we're like, okay, that's kind of what we're saying. But again, injury stuff, this is not the place for that. We don't like to break that. If Ryan doesn't want to do that, we're not trying to give aid and comfort to the enemy. But it's gonna be a heck of a game. I'm so looking forward to it, man. The day can't get here soon enough. It's Wednesday, and can we be Saturday already?
Well, I mean, the thing is like, you knew that he was done. I mean, they let him come back out on the field with crutches, you know? So, I mean, there wasn't even any mystery to it. It wasn't like they kept him in the locker room and, you know, he came back out there with crutches and I mean, he was done. You know, it was like, so I don't know. Like when you see a guy leave the field and he needs the help with the trainers because he can't put any weight on his knee or hip or whatever it is. Like I just, you know, I would be shocked if he just jumped out of the phone booth and was ready to play left tackle at Happy Valley. So again, this is, you know, pretty educated guess. And again, I talked to some people and they're like, yeah, he's not making it. So, but again, there's no reason us being first on injury doesn't win us any bonus points. And plus nobody cares. So that's where we're at with that. All right, let's wrap this thing up. Appreciate you guys as always. Thank you guys so much for being a huge part of our show. Another great show. Thank you for being a great audience, and thanks for the chat being lit. Thank you to our moderators. Thank you to my guys Steely, Sean, Trek. You guys are always keeping it lit in here in the chat. You guys are always the first ones in there getting it rocking, so I appreciate you guys as always. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. A lot of great sports on tonight. We're getting close, folks. It's going to be ticking down pretty fast, and I'm really excited about it. So again, I appreciate you guys for all that you guys do. If you could follow us on Apple Podcasts, go to Apple, click in the search bar, go to the podcast app, type in Buckeye Scoop, click download, subscribe. It is the best thing you can do for us. I mean, we're really trying to grow our audio format. It's been kind of the thing for the fourth quarter for the organizations, try to get that thing going a little bit because it's dragging behind our YouTube. We're at 33,000 subs. It's unbelievable. So thank you for that, spreading the good word. So we appreciate you guys. So shout out who you guys are watching from. Shout out who you guys are watching with. Again, this is a huge show because you guys make it one each and every night. And we love you guys. Again, we don't want to miss. I hate missing shows because, again, I love kicking it with you guys. And I feel like we have a duty to make sure you guys have the best Ohio State intel in the game. And that's what we bring you. So, again, I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. And thank you, Scoop family. We will talk to you guys tomorrow, 7 p.m. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Go Bucks.